Revisiting integrational trauma, a spirit of Dadirri to grow, blossom, and spread within all cultures. At the start of this assignment, I woke up early in the morning while the rest of my family was still asleep, and nobody disturbed my listening capacity. My body and mind had a good rest after a good sleep. It was quiet and peaceful. I put my whole body and mind into listening to the story of integrational trauma. It was a quiet, still awareness and meaning taking moment of deep listening. When I reflect on my previous understanding of Aboriginal and Indigenous cultures, I never thought about their historical depth. Now I realize that the stories and the history stretch back much further to when humans first began in interacting with the environment more than 16,000 years ago. I felt calm and happy when I hear about how they lived exactly knowing who they were. Then my heart started to tighten and ache, filled with sorrow, listening to hear how these people lost their right to the land, living a peaceful life and loving relationships with their children for generation to generations as a cycle of trauma. This deep listening and the pain took me back to the war that happened at Sri Lanka when I was little. This feeling took me back to my painful memories of living with fear, thinking about my father when he had to work in the war zones. I have witnessed many families who lost their loved ones in the war. Many of my friends lost their fathers and siblings. That time we lost our right to live a fearless, fearful life. I could see the connection of my story and their story. We both came together through different but multiple entangled stories. Now I can see how the pedagogy of deep listening support empathetic understanding even between different cultures. I reflected myself as a mother when listening to the story of a stolen generation. How would I feel if someone took my precious two children from me and told them that I was bad? If someone even touches them, will I be able to bear it? The pain will absorb me and my family's soul and will pass from generations to generations. We will trust no one to leave our children with. It was unbelievable for me to think now how Aboriginal and Indigenous people bear the pain of lost generations. This also helped me to reflect on many factors behind today's disconnected families, broken relationships, violence, suicide, and alcohol and drug abuse. Especially, it challenged my personal bias of believing that the majority of Aboriginal peoples are alcoholic or drug users. I began empathizing, thinking if my family and I face such hardship, what would happen to my future generations without adequate support to stand back up? This empathetic understanding made me realize that these children and families might have attachment difficulties and broken relationships. This led me to rethink the importance of building relationships with families through deep listening to share their pain, which they still feel personally and spiritually through generations. McGuinness 2020. Tisha McMo says, we listened to the white people, what they had to say, and learned their language. This needed to be done both ways, the respect and the understanding. If our culture is alive, strong, and respected, it will thrive. I realize the importance of supporting those people and families as a community in return to their identity by creating a safer community. I started to reflect on my emerging philosophy of inclusion of creating a respected inclusive environment. Edward et al. 2011, page 235. Rinaldi mentioned that deep listening supports validating learning as collaborative, mutual, and democratic. Also, our own understanding are part of the knowledge that unifies the world together. This supports my philosophy of supporting multicultural awareness and building inclusive environments to bring a sense of belonging and understanding within the services. I can incorporate this deep listening into my professional practices to empower children, families, and co-workers to share feelings, thoughts, and ideas to bring cultural sensitivity and foster trusting and supportive relationships. Understanding individual needs and promotes a sense of belonging and individualized learning. I can support children in developing empathy, self-regulation, and healthy social interactions. In summary, deep listening creates an inclusive, respectful, and responsive learning environment where all children can thrive. Thank you.